What is dinner? No, not what are you having for dinner, but what is it? Is it the meal in the evening or the meal in the middle of the day? I call the meals of the day in this order: breakfast, lunch, dinner. To me, this is based on the time of the day when I eat them, and not on the size nor what I eat for them. Of course, except for Christmas dinner, which I eat for a late lunch, but that's only once per year, so it doesn't count. How did the meals we eat get these names? As for most things in Western culture, let us see what the Romans did. Romans were health conscious and thought that one should only eat one meal a day. Anything more than this was a form of gluttony, which was bad for the body, and this may be the reason behind the concept of one main meal per day. Before the invention of reliable, good, artificial lighting, people's lives were dictated by the sun. Lighting did not really take off until the 1800s and would have been pretty luxurious before this time. As a result, the largest meal of the day, which was the hardest to cook and had the most amount of cleaning, would have been eaten during the daylight hours. And fair enough too, by noon, a farmer may have already spent 6 hours toiling in the field. This meal would have been called dinner, which was the main meal of the day. As times have changed, our thoughts on food have changed as well. The Romans thought less eating was good, and this influenced the way people ate up until the medieval period, where there were a lot of rules around food. Around half the days of the year were for fasting, with restrictions on when and what you could eat, if you could eat anything at all. Eating food was seen as giving into the animalistic part of the human body, and so was disliked by the church. Once the dark ages of the medieval period was over, things started to change, and the modern concept of 3 meals a day began to evolve. For the aristocracy of the late 17th century, who didn't need to toil in the field all day, dinner began to be pushed into the afternoon to around 2 to 4 p.m. This could be a public affair where you invited your counts, barons, and other entitled people over. The rest of the afternoon and evening would be for socialising, and then one would come home and eat a light meal, which was called supper. In the 1750s, Earl Sandwich invented the token lunch meal of today. He wanted a light meal that would not grease his hands so he could continue working, or more likely gambling without stopping to eat. He called for cold meats between 2 pieces of bread so his hands did not need to touch the meat. Invented is a strong word for the Earl, as the sandwich already existed in some form in Turkish cuisine. However, the sandwich became very popular as the light meal in Britain to be eaten for supper. As the Industrial Revolution got into full swing, middle and lower class people spent most of the day away from the home in factories at work. As a result, the main meal moved further back in the day when people returned home. However, people needed to eat something during the day, so the light supper meal moved to the middle of the day rather than the end and became known as lunch. Lunch, before this time, meant a snack between meals, which then made sense as this was the light meal between the breakfast and dinner. The concept that you should still have your largest meal during the day was still ingrained, hence why on a Sunday people would still have a large Sunday dinner at times that they would have lunch for the rest of the week. I've talked a lot about dinner and lunch, but what about the first meal of the day? Breakfast. During the medieval period, eating a meal in the morning was considered bad, immoral, and unhealthy, and mainly, people ate 2 meals a day. Eating in the morning had connotations that you were a working class person who needed fuel to do hard labour, or were too frail to make it to the middle of the day, like children, the sick, or the elderly. By the 17th century, which was coincidentally when the midday meal started to move to the afternoon, breakfast was seen as an indulgence, and when coffee became mainstream in Europe, breakfast was considered an important meal so people could get their caffeine hit. When people started working in the factories in the Industrial Revolution, it became important to have a meal before work where the family could come together before they would split up for the day. And so breakfast went from a shameful meal to an important one. And that is how we have ended up with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The word dinner can still mean the largest meal of the day, the evening, or the middle of the day meal. Whichever one you want, it's really your own choice. Comment below on your definition of dinner and what you think it should mean. And with that, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.